next few hours.
Yes, Tom. Well, indeed, this is a scene of humanitarian aid under mass bombardment. Just to give you the latest update of the mass bombardment, just half an hour ago, as the Civil Defense Department in Rafah has been targeted and destroyed, making it harder for an already difficult process of rescue. As the scene from the Rafah crossing, 16 of the trucks filled with humanitarian aid made it to the Palestinian side. We're talking about 300 meters away from the Egyptian gate to the Palestinian side. There are 4 more trucks are waiting for entrance to the Gaza Strip. Well, I spoke with a privately owned gas stations managers who expressed frustration due to the lack of fuel in these trucks. They said medical supplies are necessary, food supplies are necessary, but the fuel is the lifeline of Gaza hospitals now, and we need it more than ever. They're hoping for, as everybody else here, for a permanent humanitarian corridor to be open 24 hours, 7 days a week, just to combat the level of damage and the level of suffering across the Gaza Strip.
And Hani, you touched on it there before, but as we've been speaking, we've seen another number of huge explosions in Gaza. Can you just run us through exactly what has been going on with this constant bombardment from Israeli forces?
Mm-hmm. Yes, well, the majority of the bombardment, other than the one that took place half an hour ago in Rafah, is concentrated in the middle areas of Gaza Strip and Gaza City and the northern part. Unfortunately, after 15 days of mass bombardment, carpet bombardment of these areas, they are still targeting, and particularly targeting residential homes with people inside of these homes, those people who could not evacuate and could not find a place, a safe place in the southern part of Gaza. And that sense of lack of security that has been smashed right after the bombing of the Al-Ahli hospital, the ongoing warning of Al-Quds hospital in Gaza City, and the ongoing warnings of 5 UNRWA schools of being targeted. So there is a sense of fear, frustration, but on top of that, there is a sense of chaos going on. People are actually running. They don't know where to go, where to protect themselves and their children.
Okay, thank you so much, Hani. We do appreciate it. That is Hani Abu Ashiba, who is at the Rafah crossing on the Gaza side of the border. Well, Marwan Jalani is the director of the Palestine Red Crescent Society. He is in Cairo and with us live. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us on Al Jazeera. First of all, I understand that the Red Crescent has been heavily involved in getting the aid across the border finally. Can you just explain how difficult that process has been?
Thank you very much. It's been very difficult. It's been uncertain until very late hours last night. We've been coordinating with the Egyptian authorities together with the Egyptian Red Crescent. But we, on our part, we have been preparing for days to set up the logistics from the Gaza side. So we have been on standby for the last couple of days where we were guessing where it's going to come. So late last night, we have been discussing really micro details with the Egyptian authorities of how to do that, how to do the back-to-back and mobilize our volunteers together with the support of UNRWA. And I think we managed to do that. Our volunteers and staff were ready. The UNRWA trucks were ready. And I think the operation went relatively well in terms of receiving this first hope of getting in some aid. But as you have said in your reports and many commentators, this is minuscule. This is just a drop in the ocean of the needs of the Gaza people.
As we've been talking, we've just seen a number of huge explosions in Gaza. Part of the job now is to get this aid distributed. How difficult is that as bombs keep falling on the Strip?
It is almost impossible because, you know, we are moving this first tranche of aid, which is very small, into the sort of south middle of Gaza, to Deir al-Balah, to the Unrwa storage facilities, where the Israelis have the coordinates, and hopefully this will be protected. Unfortunately, nothing is guaranteed, but that was the plan. So moving it from the south to the middle, where the needs are greatest, and the north, is a huge challenge. And we are not really sure if the UN was given the green light to do that. For us as PRCS, we will take the support that is provided specifically to the Red Crescent, to our hospital in Al-Quds, to our hospital in Khan Yunis, in order to provide the needed medical supplies to our teams there. We will see how we will do that, but this is a very risky business, and our colleagues will risk their lives in trying to get the supplies where they are needed the most. And that is in the center of Gaza City, to Al-Shifa Hospital. This is where the majority of the wounded and the sick are being treated.
Yeah. We heard Egyptian President Sisi speaking at this peace summit not long ago, basically saying that the Israeli bombardment has forced the Rafah crossing to close, and that's why it took so long to reopen it. But Egypt will allow it to open and allow the flow of continuous aid in. But obviously it's not just up to them. What is the plan to get more aid in?
Well, the plan from our side and from the Egyptian Red Crescent side is that we have loads of trucks, many trucks that are packed, they're loaded, and they are waiting for getting into Gaza. Anytime we are given the green light to go into Rafah from the Egyptian side, we'll be ready to go, and we'll be ready to receive from the other side with our teams on the ground. But may I emphasize also that this should not be only the Rafah border. Israel, as the occupying power, has the responsibility for the protection of civilians under its control. It has the responsibility to open the Karm Abu Salim southern crossing border and get aid through Israel into Gaza. We are ready from the West Bank, from our headquarters, with trucks loaded with needed supplies to go into Gaza. But we need Israel to allow that, and it is its legal responsibility to allow that to go ahead as well from the Israeli side.
Yes, indeed. Thank you so much, Marwan. That is Marwan Jalani.
Can I give you a bit of a news related to the evacuation of Al-Quds Hospital?
Please do.
Very quickly. We have the Israeli organizations, Doctors for Human Rights, have petitioned the Supreme Court, the Israeli Supreme Court, to stop this order. And there is a process ongoing. And I believe there is a reply from the Israeli army saying, somehow, if I understood well, that there is yet no decision to attack the hospital. So this is a positive development. We are pursuing all means to protect the people that are sheltering in Al-Quds Hospital. And we thank the Israeli organization, Doctors for Human Rights, to petition the Supreme Court in this case.
Okay, thank you so much, Marwan. We really do appreciate that update. That is Marwan Jalani, the director of the Palestine Red Crescent Society. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Well, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas was also at the summit in Cairo. He struck a defiant tone.
We warn of any attempts to displace our people from Gaza, and we also warn of any attempts to expel Palestinians from their homes or displacing them from Jerusalem or the West Bank, because we will not accept displacement and we will remain steadfast on our land, no matter the challenges. Ladies and gentlemen, we will not leave, we will not leave, we will not leave, and we will remain on our land.
Okay, let's go live now to Hoda Abdel Hamid. She is in Ramallah in the occupied West Bank. Hoda, what's the reaction been there to finally getting aid into Gaza?
Well, the reaction was that it's a good start, but it's certainly not enough. I mean, on a normal day, you would have at least 500 trucks entering Gaza from the crossings that were controlled by Israel before this all started. So now with all what's happening, with all the destruction, the wounded, the need for everything basically in Gaza, people would tell you this is not enough. And actually, the NGOs here in the occupied West Bank have written an open letter to the Cairo summit saying that this is not enough, that it needs that the humanitarian aid that is going into Gaza needs also to reach those who are in the northern part of the Strip. That is the part that Israel had issued an evacuation order for, and many people left, but also some returned. They're also saying that it needs to be expanded to include also, for example, fuel, which are very much needed for the health facilities there. And it also says that that needs to happen on a daily basis to be able to fulfill the needs. And certainly water and electricity need to be restored to the Strip. So yes, welcomed in the sense that any aid that could reach the people of Gaza is a good first step, but certainly not enough. And they want to make sure that this is not, as one person told me, a PR stunt to show that the international community cares about Gaza, pointing out that the fact that it took 2 weeks for the first convoy to enter the Strip.
President Abbas also talked about displacement. Is that a real fear? How big a fear is that for Palestinians?
That is a huge issue among Palestinians, whether you're in Gaza, whether you're in the occupied West Bank, whether you're in occupied East Jerusalem. It is a huge concern because basically the history of Palestinians since 1948, since the creation of Israel, is also a history of forced displacement. And that has always been also something they heard from the Israeli public opinion. It exists there. Many people in Israel who have been saying for years, why doesn't Egypt absorb the people from Gaza? Why don't the 22 Arab countries absorb the Palestinians? So that is a reality that they deal with. Now with the fears of the rhetoric of what's coming out of Israel, and certainly what we're reading in the Israeli media about phase 2 of the military operation, the ground invasion wants to start, would be to create a bigger buffer zone. People are very afraid that they will be pushed further across the Sinai. But I have to say that displacement is something that happens here in the occupied West Bank continuously. Over the past 2 weeks, 500 people were kicked out from their villages. That is forced displacement. Land they have been kicked out from to give way to more outposts and to more settlements under the watchful eyes of the Israeli military. If you look at the land the Palestinians have in the occupied West Bank, it's been shrinking on a yearly basis. So certainly the issue of displacement is a huge concern for Palestinians wherever they are.
Yeah. And Hoda, do Palestinians in the occupied West Bank have any hope something concrete is actually going to come out of this summit in Cairo, or do they just think it's all talk, no action?
Well, there is that fear that nothing concrete will come out, simply also because there have been so many summits for Palestinians over the past decades. There have been so many meetings, there have been so many agreements, and each time something fails, the blame has always been put on the Palestinians, regardless of what had really happened behind closed doors. So there is little hope that something concrete would happen. I think what the Palestinians here, especially each time you speak to someone, what they want to see is definitely an end to the bombardment, an end to the death and the injury of innocent people. These pictures of young kids under the rubble crying in pain go viral here in the occupied West Bank and really raise the tensions and the emotions. Do they expect something concrete? I think many would tell you that Israel has its own plan, and they know very well, because they live in such proximity, that at the moment there is little hope to actually bring some sort of solace to the people in the Gaza Strip.
OK, thank you so much, Hoda. That is Hoda Abdelhamid for us in Ramallah. Well, speaking at the conference in Cairo, the UN Secretary-General called for action to end what he described as the nightmare unfolding in Gaza.
Israelis must see their legitimate needs for security materialized And Palestinians must see their legitimate aspirations for an independent state realized in line with United Nations resolutions, international law, and previous agreements. The time has come for action. Action to end this god-awful nightmare.
Okay, let's bring back in Tamar Kamut. He's Professor of Public Policy at Doha Institute for Graduate Studies. What do you make of what you're hearing so far at this summit? There is a lot of talk, a lot of push for humanitarian ceasefire, but do you think that any action is going to come out of it?
Tom, overall, very clear and strong positions coming from most leaders, Arab leaders in the summit. The issue of transfer is a no-go, it's a red line. Every Arab leader, including the Palestinian president, the Egyptian president, the Jordanian president, they made it clear that they will not allow or they will not be engaged by any mean in any scenarios for transferring Palestinians, depending on the conduct of war in the Gaza Strip. So that's very good, that's very clear. Of course, calling for an immediate ceasefire also is something very good. We were seeing an active Guterres now. He's coming, he's came to the region, he visited the Rafah crossing, and this is promising because the first 10 days of the war, he was more or less absent, not condemning, more or less, not asking for immediate ceasefire. So it's glad that the UN now is playing a more active role. So all in all, it's good, but the big question is how will this materialize into real, tangible outcomes that would really end the suffering and misery of Palestinians and stop this war? That's the big question. Do they have leverage? Yes, they have leverage. They have excellent relations with the U.S. Most of these countries, Arab leaders, they're key allies to the U.S. as well. Many of these country representatives or leaders have normalized relations with Israel. They have political relations, embassies in Israel. So there is political leverage they can use. There is economic leverage. Name it. The thing is, it's a good start, but let's see how will it evolve and what kind of results will it bring.
Yes, indeed. Well, since the summit has begun and in the last few hours, since the aid has gotten in, all we have seen from inside Gaza is the bombardment getting even worse. From looking at some of the pictures that we can see, it has just been absolutely relentless, explosion after explosion, as smoke rises above the strip there over the last few hours. Clearly, the summit nor the aid getting through is deterring Israel's bombing campaign.
No, it's not, obviously. Well, sadly, Israel has got a green light from the U.S. to continue with this killing machine. More or less, the U.S. tried to hint that humanitarian aid should be allowed. Israel should be more disciplined in its response. But the fact that the summit is taking place now and Israel is doing this, it sends a strong message that Israel is really moving on with its plans. So it doesn't see this diplomatic effort as anything meaningful in its own opinion or as a source of pressure. So we need, of course, to, but it's still good it's happening. So I think the more pressure is building from these summits, the street, demonstrations, worldwide. So all these things hopefully will bring some change and some pressure on, put some pressure on Israel to stop the war and to bring ceasefire into place. So let's see.
Okay, we certainly will. Thank you so much, Tamar. We really do appreciate your insight.